Now, the government's plan to impose a 1.5% housing levy starting next month continues to draw reactions from far and wide. We now want to cross over to Mombasa, where our reporter Tobias Chanji is standing by to give us a few reactions. Chanji, good morning. 1.5% more. What are residents of Nyali saying?
Very good morning, Ashley. As you said, the various reactions concerning that house levy that should be starting next month. Some of the residents here have been in support of that house levy, while others have not been supporting the levy, saying maybe the taxation will be a thorn on their the small salary that they get in the entire working. So with me here is some representation from the youths. There's an organization called Youth Nation, and I'm going to speak to the president of Youth Nation, that is David Nduati, just over his take concerning that house levy. Maybe for the starters, what is Youth Nation, the organization, before giving us your take concerning that house levy?
Thank you. Youth Nation is an organization that seeks to unite the youth in this country, and as such we have found that there is need to address youth issues within a structure that identifies with the mashinani youth. So as Youth Nation, we are concerned about civic awareness and of course the propagation of the youth agenda. To be precise, is the youth economic empowerment agenda. So Youth Nation is about youth empowerment, where youth empowerment is our business, and our business is youth empowerment.
Now, as young citizens of this country, what is your take concerning this house levy that should be starting next month?
Well, the first thing that we are having, and it's a big challenge, is we have a need to upgrade the livelihoods of the citizens, and especially the young people. Housing is part of that, which is a very crucial aspect of one's being. But now there's the challenge of the levy because of also the state of economy in this country. We must also understand majority of the young citizens who actually form the biggest chunk, okay? The taxation aspect, I come from a construction background, and I know it's a form under the government, is a form to offer the housing solution, which is very much needed in this country. As part of the government agenda and under Agenda 4 of the government, the young person or the young citizens, those who don't have that kind of an income, especially those who are in the formal sector, and of course there is the accommodation of the also informal sector, there is the double taxation that is not coming out very clear to, on as far as the implementation of it is concerned. So there is also need to come back as stakeholders and reevaluate again, because it is good to support the agenda of the government, and the aspect of housing is key. It's key because now without housing, again, you will find the struggle, the hustle is real. But it is important that we have the understanding from the side of government. We want to support it, but of course we also need the right information.
Because as you've said, there are already people who are paying through mortgages and maybe other stuff.
Yes, I would say that for those who are having their own private arrangement, because mortgaging, this is what I would call like a national housing mortgage, but there are those who are already in that planning. So they will also supposed to be allowed to continue to pursue and bring to a closure. But at the same time, there are those who don't have the housing. And I appreciate what the president said. There people are subscribing to it. But we have a case where only 165,000 applications and all that, among which is a very small representation out of the millions of Kenyan citizens, and especially the young people. Because it will be very unfair to say, okay, we are going to start this taxation immediately, and then people are asking, okay, what's going on? Is it that if I have a mortgage, I'm also going to pay for this housing levy? And that aspect of the double taxation, as it is perceived by many Kenyans, need to be addressed. And I'm also calling to the Ministry of Housing to also engage the youth. Because again, as government, it is the resolve. We have been having scenarios and good sentiments and proposals that young people need to volunteer themselves. And we've been ready to volunteer. But to propagate this information, you need that structure that goes to that common person so that they understand that if there's the element of double taxation, this is not the case.
Yeah, because also, apart from the double taxation, there's been an argument that most Kenyans are paying more tax, and at the end of the month, maybe the entire salary just goes to the tax. Apart from the housing levy, there's that NHIF, among others. What is your take on this?
Well, I would say this, that the government made a plea and had a manifesto, which was a promise to the citizens who overwhelmingly voted for the government. And of course, the government has to come back and evaluate how are they going to, give and implement these programs. Of course, the aspect of taxation is not even the problem. The problem is the lack of empowerment. As young people, we have no even problem to pay taxes. There are countries where taxation is heavy, but the empowerment, the citizens' empowerment also tries to match up with the government's expectation. So there's a need now to relook on what is driving the economy. We feel as the youth, we have been left out in some of the programs, and I will talk about the Agenda 4, partly because of two things: housing and food security. You see, if you need to have an economy that is driven and self-sustainable, you have to address the food issue and the housing aspect. Now, because of lack of that empowerment and the opportunities, we are finding such programs which are even given to the youth, like the preferential opportunities under the Youth Access the Government Procurement opportunities. Under the county governments, there has been sentiments that there is over 200 billion worth of opportunities that are set aside on preferential basis. Now, we are wondering, among the young people, who should be having these activities that propagate them and propel them also to become responsible citizens, because taxation is part of running the governance structure and administration of it.
Because the fear has also been the runaway corruption.
The runaway, corruption has been rampant, and corruption is robbing this country. And back to the opportunities of the youth on the preferential basis, we are finding people who are no longer youthful, are taking advantage of the youth opportunity, running away also with the tenders set aside for the youth. I will not wind up without saying that we want to support what the government is doing, but we also want to be involved in essence. The thing that I want to call upon the youth, and especially on the empowerment agenda, if the youth are going to be part of the responsible citizen in as far as paying taxes is concerned, the government needs also to become more innovative and creative and invite us to the table. The youth fund itself has been very conventional in an era of good concepts. So we are also demanding that the youth fund also be relooked at. We need youth fund in M-Pesa. I mean, let us have a way that the Mashinani person will feel that is participating in the economy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Nduati. Well, actually, that was David Nduati, the president of the Youth Nation Kenya, just giving his reactions concerning the 1.5 house levy. And according to him, there's need for further consultations so as issues to do with double taxation should not be there. Back to you in studio.
All right, thank you very much, Tobias Chanji. They are just getting some reactions on that government's plan to implement the 1.5% on housing levy. Remember, still on the same, we're asking you this morning, what do you think about the government's move to implement the imposition of the 1.5% housing levy? What do you think about the government's move to implement the imposition of the 1.5 housing levy? Tweet me directly at Ashley Missouri or at KTN News KE. The hashtag to use is KTN News Center. I've seen a very interesting one from Andrew KS, and it says the bigger picture is the big thing. It is understandable to be skeptical of how the funds will be used. The side